Hi, I'm Vicki.
Hi, I'm Ken.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
I'm Bud, and we are the Pickleball Crew.
And welcome to the weekly installment of the Pickleball Crew's podcast. The Pickleball Crew is a group of pickleball fanatics based in southeast Louisiana, but passionate about all things pickleball anywhere. In this podcast, Ken will review area tournaments, and then the group will jump into a lively discussion of all things serving and returning serve. Jeff will share with us one of his many Burrs, except this week he says it's a Cactus under his saddle. Vicki will close us out with a few of her always interesting shout-outs. And if you enjoy our podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe.
This is Bud, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Pickleball Crew. We've got an exciting show for you today, so stay tuned. Ken's going to start us off with his usual wrap-up for tournaments.
Great, thanks, Bud. Let's talk about August tournaments. August 4th through 6th, it's a Friday through a Sunday. The Big Easy tournament at the New Orleans Hilton is full. You can go on the website, possibly get on as as on the wait list. On Friday evening, there's going to be 8 open courts for open play, and from 12 to 3 on Friday is a clinic for the 8th Ward kids. This is going to be an exciting tournament, so we're looking forward to the Big Easy, August 4th through 6th. The following weekend, August 10th through 13th, is the New Orleans Pickleball Fest, or the Jubilees tournament, as we're calling it. This is at the New Orleans Convention Center. It's a multi-day tournament. There's over 470 registered so far. There is availability mainly in the 50-plus versus the open divisions, but I'm getting word that they are expanding some of the divisions and taking some extra people that are on the wait list. So if you're interested, even get on a wait list, and you may actually get into the tournament. August 23rd through 27th, Gastric Cancer Foundation Charity Tournament. That's in Foley, Alabama, at the Foley Event Center. Go to pickleballbrackets.com for more information on that tournament. September. The September 5th through 10th is the Fall Paddles at the Plex, Opelika, Alabama. Registration is open for that. September 23rd and 24th is the Pelican Park Classic. This is the tournament that was moved from October, from the second weekend of October. It was the Pickled Pink, and it's now the Pelican Park Classic at Pelican Park in Mandeville. Registration opens August 1st. For this tournament, it's a Saturday and a Sunday with gender doubles on one day and mixed on Sunday, I believe. The last weekend in September, there's been a change. It's the For the Love of the Y has been moved from late August to late September. So September 30th, October 1st, For the Love of the Y in Baton Rouge. Ronnie Walters is the host there. It's a sanctioned tournament at the Apology Manship Tennis Center. You can actually start to register now for it. And the Magnolia Classic team is going to be managing that tournament. But just look on Facebook or get in touch with me for more information for the Love of the Y. October is a big month. October 7th and 8th is the St. Francisville Fall Fling. Registration is now open. This is a mail-in registration. On my Facebook page, you can check. There's a link to the registration form. It needs to be printed out, filled, and mailed in. It's $80 per person. There are 3 events: mixed doubles, gender doubles, and skinny singles. So you may want to look into that. They always put on a good event there, and there's some permanent courts there now. I think were opened last year was the first year for them. October 14th, 15th, it's a brand new tournament in Vicksburg, Mississippi. It's the 2023 Fall Brawl. Again, on my Facebook page, there's a link. It's a Google Doc application that you would fill out. $60 per person. That gets you 1 or 2 events. Gender doubles on Saturday, mixed doubles on Sunday, a round robin format in Vicksburg. The last weekend in October is the Hollow Wheel. It is full. It runs from a Friday through a Sunday. in Baton Rouge at the Highland Park Tennis Center. Men's doubles will be on Friday, mixed on Saturday, and women's doubles will be on Sunday. That's the last weekend in October. And then starting in November, a couple of save the dates. The Louisiana Senior Games are November 4th and 5th. The same weekend is a brand new tournament at Canebrake Country Club in Hattiesburg. 12 new outdoor courts. We haven't got information on registration, but that looks like that's going to be a fun event. November 11th and 12th is the Tom Burkhart Memorial Classic at Lott Park in Daphne, Alabama. Registration is open, pickleballbrackets.com. It's $50 per person. And again, it is an MMP event, which means it's a medal match plus. So all of the finals and many of the semifinal match will all be reffed. And a couple more save the dates in December 1st through 3rd is the second annual Boys Ranch Christmas Classic. Last year it was at North Cypress. This year is at Fritchie Park Gym in Slidell. Friday will be a social, Saturday gender doubles, Sunday mixed doubles. That's for the Boys Ranch. That's a great cause. And I know that one's going to fill up fast when registration finally opens up. And finally, December 9th and 10th, the second annual Americana YMCA at Zachary. That's Chase Rigdon's tournament. August 1st, registration opens. It's a USAP sanctioned event, and he always has a great turnout there. So that's it on the tournament update, Bud. Back to you.
All right, Ken, thanks. Okay, now we're going to step into a topic I'm sure everybody, at least I know I have trouble with, and that's the serve and the return of serve. Vicki's going to start us off with that discussion.
That's right. Actually, I'm going to just start us off with what we thought might be a great idea, and that is before we talk about what constitutes a good serve and a good return of serve, that we might go over some of the rules. I know that some things have been brought to light lately that I was completely unaware of, but there also were some rule changes in 2023. So we thought for just a moment we'd go ahead and get Ken to share with us the rule changes for 2023 and any other rules that you think we need to be aware of. Ken?
Yeah, what was interesting in 2023, there were several rule changes as they are every year, but one of them was, if you remember, and there were some people that were very good at this, manipulating the ball. The serve was mainly to get the ball into play, and then people started figuring out a way to use their paddle as a chainsaw serve. And then when they outlawed the chainsaw serve, they were spinning it in their hand and creating side spin. So when the ball bounced and you hit it, once it went across the net, it would then kick to one side or another. So that has been outlawed. There's no manipulating the ball to add any type of spin during the release of the ball starting in 2023. And just briefly, we'll recap in case there's anybody that's kind of new to the game that's watching us. There's two main serving options. There's a volley serve, and that's a serve where you're hitting the ball out of the air. So there's three main rules for this serve. One is your arm and your paddle needs to be in an upward arc motion. Number two, the contact with the ball has to be below your waist. And the third one is whatever is the topmost part of the head of the paddle during the swing has to be below the topmost part of your wrist. So so this would be a legal serve where the topmost paddle here is below the topmost part of the wrist. But it's the people who are serving a little more on a diagonal on the side where that topmost part of the head of the paddle becomes higher than the topmost part of the wrist. That then by rule is an illegal serve. And if you question it during a match, you can call for a replay, especially if it's a reffed match. Call for a replay if it's even close. The second serve is a drop serve. And this serve was introduced a couple years ago and is really interesting. The The 3 rules I just talked about do not apply to the drop serve. What does apply to the drop serve is that you can drop the ball from any natural position. So you can hold it as high as you can and drop it. You cannot propel the ball down, and you cannot propel the ball upward to increase how high it would bounce. The ball can bounce anywhere in the court or behind the baseline, on the baseline. There's no restrictions to where the ball can bounce. And lastly, the ball may bounce at least one time, but can bounce multiple times. So even after a second bounce, you can still hit the drop serve. Those are the big key points for both the volley and the drop serve. Again, the volley serve is hitting it out the air without a bounce, and the drop serve is having at least one bounce. So that's it. Vic, back to you.
Okay, just real quick question though, just to be, doubly sure, because you say the ball can bounce on the court anywhere, but your body has to be behind the line when you meet the ball, correct?
Correct. So that's a good point. So the way it works is when you make contact with the ball, at least one of your feet has to be behind the baseline. Now, the other foot could be up in the air, but neither foot, when you make contact, can be touching the baseline or touching the court of play. And the other restriction on where your feet can be, if you picture an imaginary line at the center of the court, that center line coming past the baseline and the sideline coming past the baseline, both of your feet must be within those two imaginary lines coming behind the baseline. So,
Okay. That's just one
All
to
right.
make sure. All righty.
Good rule review.
That's right. Absolutely. Very helpful. I mean, most of us didn't even know about the multiple bounce on the
I
bounce.
didn't.
So that was really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize on the drop serve that all bets are off. You can do whatever you want to.
I know.
Try to rip a forehand, rip a backhand. I didn't realize that.
That's right. And
We
I have
got a guy,
seen
we got a guy that
using their
plays at
backhand.
we got a guy that plays at John Slidell, and he does a drop backhand serve,
Mhm.
and it has got so much spin on it because I mean he hacks at it, and when it hits on the other side of the court, you better be ready to hit it about 2 feet to the right of where you think it should have hit.
Wow.
It does it that much.
Yeah, and I'm seeing more and more backhand drop serves. It's
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, now we can talk about all things serve and all things return a serve, but we'll start out with serve and talk about those things that we think can benefit you. What do we think is an advantage? What do we, not really need to consider with our serve? And, we brought up some interesting things last week about choosing to serve first. So let's see if we can't get a good conversation going about the serve and what part of strategy does it, have to do with, or is it best to have a hard serve? Or, we all know, I think the most important thing is to get it in and to have a high percentage that it is getting in. Otherwise you won't score any points if you don't. But, what are your thoughts, Jeff?
So first thing, like you said, I want it to be in. Second thing, the serve can it's the first stroke of the point and can really dictate things. If you get a deep serve, makes their return harder. So that's kind of the first thing there. And getting back to, this is repeating what we said last week, but for some that didn't hear it, if you're working on your serve, the first thing I would want to do is get really consistent with getting it in. Then once you get consistent with getting it in, then try to work on getting it in that deep third. And I always say, built into that that model, if you're hitting good hard deep serves and one goes out the back line every now and then, I think you're okay. You don't want it happening a lot, but if it happens once a game,
Right.
or maybe even twice a game, I think you're still good. I think the benefits outweigh that serve going out the back line.
That's right.
And
So
something to keep in mind, on traditional scoring, you can never lose a point by serving it long.
yeah,
You know,
that's a
so
good
like,
point, Bud. And we talk about and some pros go into matches with this mindset of being more aggressive when they're serving because you're at a disadvantage. If you lose the point, you don't actually lose a point, versus when you're receiving, you kind of scale down a little bit and maybe go a little more conservative because you already have the advantage and the other team is, fighting to try to get to the net. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Ken, any thoughts?
Yeah, you brought up the two important points, both Vicky and Jeff. Getting it in and getting it in deep. The other thing I find, if you're hitting the same serve over and over,
Mhm.
even if it is deep, they can start to align themselves and set up for that. So I think it's good to actually try to mix up your serves, forehand, backhand,
absolutely.
even
Yeah.
throw in a shorter angle serve every now and then. Um, and something I've been trying lately in rec play, to the people have been a little upset sometimes, is a loftier or lob serve.
Yeah,
And you know what?
absolutely.
And when you get into tournament play, you're going to see all of that. You're going to see people mixing it up left and right with flat serves, lob serves, top spin serves. So it's a rec play is a great time to experiment with some of those things.
Absolutely. And the
That
only other point that I would want to make too is that just to remind people that when you are serving, and of course, this isn't about the serve itself, but when you are serving and you have momentum going forward and everything, do not follow the ball into the court. Stay back. We
Absolutely. Yep.
watch beginner players all the time get stuck because they start moseying on into the court after their serve. And if you've got a more experienced player on the other side, they're going to hit it at your feet, and then you get stuck.
yeah.
I see it
That's the
happening
old
all
tennis
the
player
time.
coming through.
Yeah.
That's
That's the
true.
old tennis player, serve and volley.
Hmm.
Serve
Yeah.
and
Very,
volley.
Um,
yeah.
That's
So I think being
that's a good
diverse is
point, Vicki. That took me a while to really learn to stay back, and I still occasionally find myself stepping in after I serve instead of staying back. And sometimes I even find myself holding on the line, just staying on the line, and I really should be back further than that.
that's
But
right.
I
yeah.
try to. I've been trying 3 serves. I try to do a top spin like Ken does. It's got a little loft coming over, but it hits deep. Then I have a flat, hard serve that I like to throw in. Occasionally I'll do a loft, but not often. And then I'll intentionally try a short serve.
Hmm.
I'll intentionally serve it short. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
those are my mixes.
Getting back to what Ken said a while ago, when you play against tennis players, you can rip that serve as hard as you want most of the time. Tennis players love that pace.
Oh yeah,
They love that pace. So when you go with a lob serve mixed in every once in a while, now all of a sudden, and you try to get it back in that deep third like we talk about, now all of a sudden they have to generate their own pace.
Right.
And a lot of tennis players, I'm telling you, I used to think that it was crazy to do it, but I've seen it work. I'm not telling you it's going to work every time, but somebody out there will try it and be like, they said it would work. No, it's not going to work every time, but you'd be shocked at the number of mistakes you get, or you get a weak return that you can do something with. So that variety, and Ken, the best part of that point that you made a while ago is people get into a groove. We get into a groove if it's the same serve all
Hmm.
the time. So throwing that variety in there can really helps. And hey, if you score 1 or 2 points a game like that, you know,
Well, that's right. That's
it's
right. I
worth it.
mean, you're going to see videos out there that will tell you not to use your serve as a weapon. That's don't think of it as a free point or whatever. And then you have other videos that you'll see out there that say, how to serve with everything you got or move it around or whatever becomes a strategic point. The one thing that I have noticed is that if you can move people around, like Ken is saying, I think that's extremely important. But from time to time, if you can angle that serve, you're pulling that person basically off the court. Their partner has to move in, and all of a sudden, whereas the serving team, the receiving team would have the advantage normally. Now, all of a sudden, as a serving team, you may have an advantage because you have just pulled one person completely off the court. So I've seen Ken do it a bunch. Julie Brown is a champ at doing it, and trying to think, there's one other person out there that just consistently
Bruce can hit an angle serve. Bruce out at Pelican Park can hit an angle serve
Bruce
that
does.
it's hard to get to. It seems to go right out into the side fence. So
That's right. So again, there's training, put those cones out, markers out, whatever it is, get out with a basket of balls, practice your serve, practice it, hitting it all the different ways, just like you described, Bud. Practice a lofty, deep, you want it deep as much as possible, but I do believe, just like Bud, sometimes it's good to throw a little short serve in too. So, but practicing them, getting used to them, again, consistency and having control over it is a really big factor. So,
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, also, let's say I'm playing against somebody that has a really good forehand. Okay. If you focus on trying to serve a lot of serves to their backhand,
that's right.
if you can get it there, you're going to that wing of theirs that's not as good as their forehand.
Mm-hmm.
And we play with some people with some really good forehands, and you'll see they'll stagger to try to get that ball on their forehand side. So just from a strategy standpoint, if you have enough control, go to that backhand over the course of a game, and it might mean 3, 4, 5 points,
That's right.
to you. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, that's why practicing your serve and practicing, all the different serves is so important, so that you're comfortable in a match, even if it's just, whether it's rec play or a tournament, that at different times you can pick where you want on the court, and hopefully come within, a foot or so, 18 inches of where you want to go with it. And like you said, go to their backhand, go to their forehand, a lofty serve, a short serve, like Bud said. Just now that person's back there in a ready position and has no idea what ball is coming at them. So they've really, if their momentum or their weight is on the wrong foot, they're a step behind getting to possibly your shot. So
That's right.
Good stuff.
Good stuff, guys. All righty, let's head to return a serve and see what we can dig up on that. Any thoughts?
Wow, that's a whole nother game.
My first thought would be the same sort of thing, is to mix it up. Again, I have noticed several people that seem to always return the serve, back to the server. Interesting thing that we learned from Chase Rigdon is he said he always loves to return the serve back to the strongest player. So if the stronger player is not serving, you would return to the other. And he said that's because he wants to keep that player deep. So he targets who he's hitting that serve back to.
So he returns serve.
Server.
He returns serve to the stronger player.
Mm-hmm. He wants to keep that player back.
What he's doing, Bud, he's identifying that. Let's say you're playing against a team that likes to shake and bake. One of them's got a really good forehand or backhand drive, and the other player is that strong player that's aggressive, that wants to come to the net and try to run that shake and bake. Or even off a drop shot, you go to the weaker player, they hit the nice drop shot, then you got that stronger player coming up and getting in your face if they hit a good drop shot. So That's what Chase is talking about. A good return to that roam. I call them roamers. It's an athletic player that loves to, do the shake and bake or come in and really pressure you with after his partner or her partner's hit a drop shot. So you're keeping that player back at least one more time and trying to negate what they're trying to do against you.
Yeah.
That's
Good
right.
point. Yep.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. The other thing is down the middle, right? Down the middle, about 5 feet inside the baseline, down that center line, you create confusion on your return of serve. Um, or if you can target a little more toward, whatever you think is the weaker stroke, whether it's the backhand or the forehand. If they're stacking, it could be two forehands in the center, but that down the middle, just especially in rec play, could cause confusion. If you've got partners that communicate well, they may be able to get to that ball, but that's always a good, safe return to serve.
No doubt.
And Ken, yeah, Ken, you just reminded me of, and this is higher level play, but if you got people on the odd over there and they're stacking on the serve, when they're unwinding that stack, the player driving. Well, that's not talking return, is it? I done got ahead of myself. I'm talking about the third.
Third shot.
Yeah, I'm talking about the third. I'm sorry, y'all.
That's
I've been up
okay.
since
Take,
I've been
take
up
two.
since 3:45 this morning.
Well,
Okay,
I
there
was
was
going to
something
say,
else.
Jeff, the one thing you always say is just don't let the net beat you. Get it back over, right?
Yeah,
Just get your return
yeah,
over. Hopefully it's deep. It down the middle, like Ken is saying, is a great shot. But just don't let the net beat you. Get it over. That's the most important thing.
right.
Again, be consistent with your return and get it back.
Yeah,
Sometimes too, if my partner and I are switching, I get the hand signal that they're switching, then it depends on whether, if my forehand's now going to be in the center, sometimes I'll then try to return either to what will be their corner or to my corner if I feel like I can get across in time. So sometimes where I place the ball in a return to serve might determine whether we're switching, after the hit, or we're staying in that same position. So just something else
yeah.
that I know I've done some mental exercises about, thinking about where I'm returning the ball during a switch. So
And that's
Okay,
like
so
Jamie
I was
loves to do that one thing too, where she will let you know if you're the partner and you're on her left hand side, she'll say, I'm going straight with my return, hug the middle. And then you've got an
right,
Okay,
opportunity
yeah.
to put away, in the middle.
right. So
that's
that's
something.
a lot of.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Jeff.
Ken.
No, you go.
No, go ahead.
That's something that Vicki and I discuss a lot in tournament play, is where we're going with the ball, especially when when she's returning and I'm kind of hugging the tee. I'm on the left, she's returning from the even. Whether I feel like she can go down the line and I'm actually going to poach across, so we kind of talk about where she's going sometimes with that return to serve, especially if we feel like we can successfully create a scenario that I can jump across and poach, and then she'll fill in behind me. So I think talking about where you would like to get a return of serve is really good between partners, and then it's almost like then you've got some anticipation as far as where the ball is going and where you need to be as the non-returner. So
No,
No
no
doubt.
doubt. And yeah, I'm thinking the scenario with you and Vicky. If she knows you're going with that return in front of her, she automatically knows as y'all are coming up that she's got to watch line.
mm-hmm.
Okay, her line, depending on how far over you get the ball, and
Right,
you're going somewhere to the tee.
right,
Um, the further you can get it over, the further you're on that tee, and
right.
y'all's play or defense or offense is set up, and you're ready to go there.
Right. And one big learning lesson for me was whether or not he was moving, not moving. But one of the things I learned not to do is that if I feel like he's getting ready to move towards the middle, I'm on the right returning, and he's getting ready to move, if I put that ball heavy duty cross court, it's coming back where he's not. So
Right.
safer thing for me to do
Right.
is keep it to the middle or to the right. And
Yeah.
that was a big learning lesson for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and similar to a lofty serve, especially if you're having a tough time either getting to that no volley zone, you know, I've thrown in a lofty return, and that ensures, you know, my chances of getting up there, and 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 then again, like you said, Jeff, they've got to generate the speed all themselves because they can't just make contact with that ball. It's everything is on them at that point, and you'd be surprised that sometimes they are really unsure what to do with that lofty return of serve.
That's real smart, Ken. Take and rip your return at some really good tennis players that
Mm-hmm.
can rip it back. It's going to
Yeah.
get over there real quick, and you're going to have trouble getting to that line, and they're going to be like, "Ooh, I'm liking this pace," and drive it right back at you as you're trying to get up. So it's more important, you know. Sometimes you think, "Man, I need a good, strong, hard return." That's a good thing, but you got to weigh it out. To me, it's more important for you to get to that line.
Mm-hmm.
So if it means lofting it in that back third where you can cruise up to that line where you and your partner can get established at the line and set, you're going to win a much higher percentage of those points over time.
Right.
You know, it's really funny you say that because I've used, and I never even thought of it that much, with Gary Gerald. When I return his serves, I always try to loft it back at him just so I get enough time to get to the net because I know he's going to drive it back at me.
Yeah,
And
Gary
he's
likes
caught me
pace.
so many times in
Yeah,
no man's land when I haven't done that. If I
yeah,
try to rip a return at him, he'll bring it back at me and I'm caught in no man's land.
that's right.
Very
So that
true.
you're right. That's a really good strategy. Something else I've been trying to do on my return of serves is putting spin on the ball. You
That's a
know,
good point,
my
bud.
forehand return and my backhand return. If the serve is one that I can do it with, I'll hit spin on the return
Yeah,
just to break things up a
Yeah.
little bit.
yeah. We've mentioned several times about changing paces, spin. That's all good. So we've talked about where to go with the ball. Now let's talk about court positioning when you're returning.
Can I say
And
one
this is
more
the
thing though on return to serve? Jeff, is that all right?
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I tell you who always gave us fits, and this was about 2 years ago when we were, you know, still learning the game, about 2.5, 3 years ago. Greg Eisman used to put a backspin on the ball on his return to
Return
serve
of serve.
Yeah,
that
There's a,
was almost impossible to hit a third shot drop or even a drive because
really
with
tough.
that
Yeah,
backspin, when that ball hits your paddle, it's that backspin's continuing and the ball comes up and drop. It's like almost like you're
Drop.
putting top spin on the ball, and you really have to hit up on that. So I've from I guess from my tennis background, I can hit an easy backspin return to serve with my backhand. It's a little more challenging my forehand, but I'll tell you if that's another return to serve, and Bud brought it up being adding spin, an underspin or a backspin return to serve is so hard to deal with. So I just
oh
wanted to
yeah,
yeah,
make that one last point.
yeah. And when you're trying to deal with that ball, we're talking about a ball they've cut it and it's got a lot of backspin. You really got to
Mm-hmm.
lift that either with your drive or with your drop. You got to
Yeah,
lift it way more than what you think. If you
right.
just hit it like you would normally hit a flat ball that's coming over the net, it's going to dump in the net almost
Exactly.
every time.
Very
Almost every
true.
time.
Yeah.
and you
Yeah. So
definitely can't block it. If you try
no,
to
no.
block it, it's
Uh-uh.
just going to spin right off your paddle.
Yeah.
You got to get under it and lift the heck out of it as much as possible.
That's
So we've
right.
talked about hitting strokes and where to put it. So this is what I see a lot. And Bud, like you said a while ago, it's something that I get caught in every now and then, but I feel like I've gotten better at it. And I'm trying to make it a focus of mine is to get back behind that baseline and be moving forward into that serve.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell y'all how, in my mind, how important that is. You see people, they're able to deal with a serve. They're tight on the baseline, but it puts them in neutral or puts them on their back foot. Now you're late. You're late in getting to the non-volley zone line. So I encourage people, if you think you're back far enough, step back a little further and really focus on that. Where when I'm coming into that return, I've got some forward motion, okay, and you don't necessarily want to run full speed through your shots, but you can get good at that forward motion and chipping that thing forward and into that back third, and then your momentum, you're at the net where you want to be. So I think that's really, really important.
I love it when I'm playing with somebody and I'm serving and I see them standing there with their toes on the back line. I'm definitely going to try to hit it deep and right at them.
Yeah. And I've talked with some people about that, and every once in a while I'll get, well, what if they serve it short and I'm way back? Okay, well, my advice to them is get on back and make them do that to you.
Yeah.
Okay, and if they do it to you twice or 3 times, then you might want to come up a little bit. But to me, when they hit it short, they're just inviting you to come on up to the net really easy.
Absolutely.
I mean, most people, most pickleball coaches are going to tell you deep serves, deep returns. So that's what most good players are trying to do to you. So get back off that baseline, give yourself some room.
Absolutely.
No doubt. And again, we do need to probably, reiterate that the biggest goal when you're returning is to get yourself to that net. I mean, don't stand there. Don't, dilly dally, return it. Hopefully you've communicated with your partner, get up there and take the advantage because like you said, there's the advantage when both of you are there.
I played with a gal yesterday, and she's getting pretty good. She's still a beginner, probably a 3-0 maybe. And she would not come to the net after returning serve. She would take about 3 steps in, and she got caught so many times in no man's land with the ball at her feet. And after the game, I told her, I said, you got everything going for you, but the one thing you need to do is don't stay back when you're returning serve. Return that serve and get to the net.
Right.
Wade Partridge told me when I first started playing, I took a couple lessons from him. He said, when you return a serve, you go to the line and you make yourself look as big and as mean as you can look. He said, you want to intimidate the people on the other side and make them look at you rushing the net.
That's right.
So I do it all the time. I don't ever stay back anymore. Probably should sometimes, but I don't.
So what are you guys' thoughts on stacking on serve and stacking on return a serve? Does that
I get confused.
Is
I
that,
do
is that
too,
just
but-
more situational, or do you think for certain partners, it's something you should do all the time?
Well, I think if you're playing with a lefty, stacking makes all the sense in the world. Anytime you can put both forehands in the middle, that to me is what you should do. In my mind, 2 righties or 2 lefties, it ought to be the strongest person's forehand that is in the, if you're a right-handed player, the strongest guy ought to be in the left court, and that's how you stack. That's just my opinion.
Definitely easier, Ken, to stack on the serve.
Yeah.
Especially when you're learning it.
Mm-hmm.
Stacking on the return is more difficult. You even see sometimes nowadays with these souped up paddles and spin returns and this and that, where it's tougher on some professionals even to unwind that stack. But I think it's something you don't see it a lot in rec play, that's the time to work on it.
Yeah.
I've worked a lot on the stack because I'm left-handed, so I want to stack with a lot of people, and there's a lot of advantages to it. And you should toy around with it. To me,
Yeah,
in rec play, more than
Well,
what some people do.
yeah.
I agree. I mean,
This past
Jeff, I
weekend,
like when I play with you and we stack. I mean, I like to do it. Johnny Venetia
Yeah,
is the master stacker.
yeah,
He
He
sure is.
he knows where everybody's supposed to be. You know, he knows where what court because I get confused, especially on return serves.
yeah.
I get confused when you're stacking, but he knows it with his eyes shut. He knows where you ought to be. So I like it. You know,
yeah.
I like to stack.
So this past weekend, I was playing with Molly. We played a couple of games together, um, and she's a left-hander. I'm a right-hander. So we stacked on all serves, and we started stacking on returner serves. And I was off to the side, and or whoever was not returning the serve was off to the side and would step in. But we had some servers that were actually pinning the returner server to the sideline, and now you've got two people on basically that are now standing on that sideline, and it really made it challenging for us to get back into position sometimes once they kind of picked up on it. So it's almost like my experience. It's better to be in the regular formation on return a serve and then use a
Yeah.
hand signal of whether you're going to switch or not, rather than having somebody line up off the court just behind the no volley zone. Maybe other people have more success with that, but I found that to be a struggle on return a serve.
I prefer hand signals.
Yeah,
You know that and I don't we don't do it enough in rec play. That's something else we should do more of.
definitely.
Yeah,
We
we
really,
need
we
to
really
practice.
good. Yeah.
Jeff, didn't you say that Colin and Ben Johns do it every time? Like Ben is
Okay, if
always
you
on the
watch
left.
Colin, you watch Colin and Ben Johns, every single point of every match they play, they're stacking on the serve and they're stacking on the return of serve. And I have never, now some of the other pros, if it's not going well, they might flip flop, and play straight up some or stack the opposite way. But the two of them, I have never seen them stray away from that ever.
Interesting.
Have to watch that.
Yeah. And,
So when
and,
they're
and
stacking, go ahead.
when you're watching pro pickleball or pickleball on YouTube, watch it. Watch, get within the game and watch what they're doing and see, okay, they're on an odd number. This person's serving because it took me a while, but then I started, just watching what's going on within the match. And the more I've seen it, now it's kind of second nature to me. It's fairly easy for me now, especially if I start on the right side. Now, I've been playing a lot with Chase Rigdon. Chase is a lefty like me, and we stack Chase on the right. So now that puts me on the left side, which is not my traditional stacking spot, but Chase is much a stronger player than me, so we stack him on the right. It was a little bit of a challenge for me because now we're stacking over there. I found myself going to the wrong spot sometimes when we were on an odd number, but I have gotten used to it now because it's kind of opposite of what I normally do. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. And as stacking, if I see something that's working, say Vicki, me and you are playing against whoever, and you're winning dink battles on that left side against the person that's cross court, well, I want to keep you there. If you're in 10 dink battles there and you've won 7 of them, that's a good matchup for us. That's a good pattern. So we want to stack you there and milk that cow till it goes dry, so to speak.
Right.
And that's what stacking can do for you when you see some sort of advantage to putting one player on one side or the other.
That's right.
So Jeff, in that scenario, as their score changes and that person she's winning the deke battle goes to the other side of the court, then and then you would stack accordingly to keep her catty corner from the person she's winning the deep battles with.
Well, I mean, it depends. If Vicki might be winning it from the left side, but
Okay.
if we're flip flopping and Vicki happens to be on the right side and she's winning that cross court battle, or if me and her play a point and I happen to end up on the left side and I'm winning that cross court battle, you don't know what's going to come up in a match.
Right.
But
Right. It may not
that's
be
part of.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
It may not be against a particular player. It just may be from the position she's on. I see the point that you're making.
Right.
Could,
Or it's
could
your
be,
better
could
side.
be against. Yep, could be against a certain player. Or just some little something that you find in a match. That's why stacking's so important. And honestly, Vicki, we probably need to start putting more focus in our drill group on it.
We do.
Because
and
it's
practice it more.
the next step. Practice it, yeah.
Absolutely.
And,
even moving, how if you're giving the signals, and we did that a long time ago, but knowing that even sometimes just knowing that if your partner is coming across pretty good, that you now rotate and you move back to the other side, but you've got to yell to them and communicate, stay.
Right.
This is where communication between partners is so important. Ken, you and I bumped into each other a number of times. So it is like really good to practice these things when you're in rec play and just know when he signals something, I know exactly what that means. I know I'm going to be rotating and moving over in this direction, or you just get used to doing it.
And sometimes, and it happened with you and I, Jeff, we were playing as partners one time, I remember, and we had lost like 3 or 4 points in a row. And we got finally got the serve back, and you said, let's stack. And it was just to show them a different look. So all of a sudden now they've got something to think about that may be distracting to them. It might take them kind of out of the groove that they're in. So that's another reason to throw a offensive stack in, or a defensive stack. So.
Hey, you bunch of nerds. We done went from return and into the stack. But it's still good
all
stuff.
part of serve and return a serve, right?
There you go.
It kind of is, but we can do a whole show down the line on stacking. Y'all are making me think of some other stuff, and y'all probably have some other stuff in your mind. So we might have to do another show on stacking, but that just goes to prove once we get going, people, boy, we really get
we burn it up.
rolling on through.
All right, guys, that was a great discussion on serve and return to serve, and we even threw in a little stacking there strategy. But now it's time for good old Jeff's Burr Under My Saddle.
You're a burr under my saddle. You're a thorn sticking in my side.
Bud, this week I don't have a burr under my saddle. I have an entire cactus. I mean, it's some rough riding here.
Jeff, I don't know if I can find a song for that.
This week's burr under my saddle is stop speeding up the ball from the transition zone. And I want to paint this scenario. Mainly what I'm talking about is when your two opponents are entrenched at the net. They are both at the net, and you and your partner are back. Okay? And I'm not talking about a high ball. If you get a high ball, try to rip it down at their feet. But anything that comes low, okay, you have to try to reset that ball into the kitchen and not speed it up from that transition zone. You'll even see, I see sometimes a player's back there and they try to hit a hard shot down the line and they'll miss it out of bounds, or they feed it across court and then you're getting your partner killed there. And then sometimes when they try to go down that line, you'll hear people say, well, that was a good idea. No, it really wasn't. It really wasn't. I challenge people to play the percentages If you will reset that ball in the kitchen and get you and your partner up to the kitchen line where your opponents are at, now you're not going to win every point, but now you're playing 50-50 pickleball. When you're back at the transition zone and you're speeding it up, you're not playing 50-50 pickleball. You're probably only going to win maybe 20% of those points. And I never was great in math, but I would rather win 50% of the points than I would to win 20% of the points in that particular scenario.
No
But
doubt.
as I always say, Vicki, you know what I always say? If you're playing with me and you want to speed it up from the transition zone, guess what? I'm going to get down and I'm going to work on my defense.
You're going to clean it up.
I'm going to clean the mess up. All right, bud. That's my burr in my saddle this week.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
And now to close us out, Vicki's going to give us a few of her shout outs.
All righty. Got to put my eyeballs on for this. All righty. My first shout out is to all of our locals that went and played in National Senior Games. We haven't seen all of the results that came back, but we certainly wanted to congratulate everyone who participated, all those who won medals and ribbons. And we have a little shout out for Jack Rourke, who won a silver with his blind date in mixed doubles. And Tony the Tiger, what can we say about you, Tony Haldeman? 3 gold medals. He was representing Louisiana for sure. We are so proud of you. And congrats to your partners,
amazing.
Jenny
That's
Nault
amazing.
and Rob O'Neill as well. All locals. And we're just so proud of you. 3 gold medals. Impressive.
Yeah.
My second shout out is to Taylor Garcia, who is a Mandeville native who is making a break for it on the pro circuit. Taylor just participated in the PPA Denver Open. And we just wanted to send you a shout out and let you know we're thinking about you. We're supporting you. We're all following you and rooting you on for plenty of success ahead. My third and final shout out is there's been a lot of talk going on out there, some complaints, some good things, and whatever else on the youngsters that are finally coming into the game. I think it's awesome. Even at Pelican Park, we're seeing more 16, 18-year-olds, 20s, and even 30-year-olds that are coming in. It is no longer thought that, at least from what we're seeing, that pickleball is just an old person's game. It's exciting
Definitely not a
to see
senior
them come
sport
in. Exciting to see them come in and everything. And I was just in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I want to send a special shout out to all my young cousins who have taken up pickleball and are loving it and enjoying it and playing with a group of youngsters once a week. So
That's
I'm really
awesome.
proud of them
Good
and
deal.
excited for them and wish them well.
All right, Vicki, thank you for your shout outs.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything for the crew? That'll do it, folks. That's it for this week. We'll see you all next week. Say bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Be on the
everybody.
courts.
Well, that's it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave any comments and please like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again and see you next week.